When I started my business, gold was around 1,000 rupees for 11 grams.
If you worked hard, then you should be able to enjoy it.
So the woman needs to be involved, whether it is she's not an earning member or an earning member, either ways.
I was so busy making jewelry for other people, I forgot to make things for myself.
We've earned the money that we've earned, and it's worth it to spend it.
Most of the younger investors that I meet are not really, referring to tomorrow at all.
I feel like they're very, very safeguarded about their money, and they don't know where to spend it.
I should have invested in gold when it was so cheap.
Spend the money if you have it.
Hi, this is Moneywise on NDTV Profit, and I'm Alex Matthew. At the onset, let me wish all the women tuning in a happy Women's Day. Guys, if you're watching this on Women's Day, here's a reminder to wish the women in your life and maybe do something special for them. Today, I have the unique privilege of speaking to 3 generations of women to get a glimpse into their lives and also find out more about their relationship with money. Joining me today is Nisreen Mamaji, financial advisor and founder of Moneyworks. Her mother, Fatima Bandukwala, and her daughter, Aman Mamaji. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time for speaking to me. It's my privilege to have you in studio, and happy Women's Day to all of you at the start. I want to start by asking, of course, Fatima.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk over the course of the next 25 minutes about what you think about money, what your relationship with money is, what your experiences were at that point of time. And here we're talking about way back in the 1930s, 1940s. You were born in the mid 1930s. 1937. That was when World War II was going on. And so you've seen India transition through the years. Tell me about your experiences with money early on, and how that is vastly different in all probability from what you're seeing right now.
For me, it's mind-boggling to see things nowadays compared to what I was exposed in my childhood.
Okay.
Yeah. We had to really stretch our rupee to the limit. Now our rupee has no value. So my parents had to, we were 5 sisters, and my parents had to really budget during the World War. And our school fees also, my parents had to send us to the best schools, no doubt, but they had to really worry about the fees, the clothes, the shoes that the school required, because it was short of money in those days. My parents had to hand us, we wore handout clothes. My elder sister wore them, and then it came to me.
Yes.
Yeah, nowadays this child doesn't repeat the clothes second time. that really upsets me sometimes.
Okay. So I can see Aman ducking her head on one side. So let me go straight to her. Does that sound odd to you?
It does sound very different, I'd agree. Because I feel like in my generation right now, we do tend to spend a little bit more on certain luxuries that we saw that maybe our parents didn't enjoy as much when they were our age. And we'd like to open their doors to these luxuries now and make it normalized for them. So that they can enjoy it as well now, and without thinking twice. But about the clothes, though, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that, okay? But she would know better. I'm going to trust your grandmother on this. But Nisreen, I'm coming to you last because you already have such experience with handling money, and you advise people on how to manage money better.
Sure.
But I want to understand from you what your early experiences with money were.
Right.
As your mother has just pointed out, when she grew up, the relationship with money was a little different, right? They grew up at a time when money by and large was difficult to come by, and it had to be apportioned. What was your early experience, and what drew you to this profession?
So my earliest memories are, of course, of my parents being, pretty frugal. They were very well educated. My father studied in New York University, my mother from St. Xavier's College. So they always felt that, we should spend on education and obviously on the necessities. And travel, luxury holidays were, always planned for and budgeted. But luxury purchases were a complete no-no. From the family that I grew up in. They did not consider that important at all. But they would not scrimp on, say, an education or anything related to maybe studying a sport or studying, music or dance. My parents did expose me to Bharatnatyam when I was in school, tennis and swimming also, right from the time that I was, in school.
Able to participate.
Able to participate, yeah. So what they considered important for, possibly like club memberships, because they could expose me to these certain activities, they did that.
As a woman, in the time that you grew up, the thinking about what a woman brings to the table, brings to the family, is very different from what it is right now. You were expected to perform certain responsibilities, maybe. I'm trying to understand what your thought process was in bringing Nisreen up and providing her with certain opportunities and maybe facilitating her getting into a business which she now is in.
I always wanted my children to be very independent, never depending on anybody, even on me or their dad. They had to make their own decisions. That was very important for me. Every step they had to make their own decisions, and money played important roles. I mean, she had a pocket money, and how she spent it, how she saved it, made no difference to me, because I knew she would do it wisely as she's been exposed to our lives, she knew about our lives. So she would use her money well and thoughtfully.
Okay.
And in that also she saved the money. She bought nice things for herself or for her friends when necessary. Yeah.
Okay. So I got some sense of that. I'll come to you next, Nisreen, because what I want to understand is it's now becoming more common, and I will take Eamon's view on this as well, but it's now becoming more common for women to venture out and start businesses themselves, to have the gumption, to have the capability as well, and support from family to do so. I guess at the time when you started doing that, it was not necessarily as common. I don't know when you started, but what was the thinking? What facilitated this move to set up a business?
So actually, my mom is the role model for me, because she started a jewelry making business, many moons ago.
Interesting.
And she used to work from home and, meet her clients, and she had a set of, tool maker, the jewelry makers, and she would, do it from home. But she did that for many years. And she is herself a very strong and independent lady, having lost her father when she was only 15.
Okay.
So she actually took over the role of, manager of her, two younger sisters, one younger sister and her mother. The elder sisters were married. So she always felt that, I have to manage things because any trouble may befall me anytime. So I think that kind of, story was, understood and imbibed by me at a very young age. And and she always made sure that I was independent, whether in thinking or working. So obviously my parents did facilitate and help me, get into, encouraged me to do my MBA after my graduation. Also, I did my law, so I did 2 years of law as well. So education, as I said, was very important in our family, so that you could stand on your own feet and you were not dependent even on your spouse. So I definitely think my mom is a very, very role model for me, a very strong person in my life, and she's actually lived her words.
Yeah.
So I learned by example.
Okay.
And my father was very good with investing and saving.
Sure. So the genesis was there, clearly.
Yes.
Okay. So, Eamon, I'm guessing that because of the kind of family that you belong to and mom obviously managing money, advising people about money, your experience with money would likely be different from a lot of other people. How so?
So coming back to you talking about women being
Yes.
financially
Yes.
independent,
Yes.
I've seen that all my life. With Nani, 100%. Every Saturday, mom used to take us over and spend the day with Nani, and I'd see her with her jewelry business, her clients coming in,
Right.
her karigars coming in, her giving them designs. So I've seen it all my life. She's been a very self-sufficient lady her whole life. Even when it comes to her clothes making. She used to stitch her own clothes. I think she just stopped it about 2 years ago. And there's this one story I'd like to share
Please
actually
do.
about mom. So we have cats at home,
Okay.
and one of our cat had gotten pretty ill. I think he had gotten really sick and he needed surgery. And this was bang in the middle of the day. I was in school at the time and I'd just gotten back, and dad's cupboard was locked and the money was in there, and she was opening her cupboard and she was removing the money, and I remember sitting on her bed and looking at her, and she told me, she said, this is why we work and this is why you have to be financially independent, because if emergencies like that do come up and there's a large sum of money that I need to spend now on the cat or anything, I can do it right away, and I don't have to think twice about it.
So there's a story about the vanilla ice cream. There's a story about the cat that needed.
Yeah.
So it's the small things that strike you as a kid that stick with you, right?
That do stick with you.
And you didn't tell me about your business. I was waiting for you to tell me about your business, and you told me
She's probably forgotten.
the jewelry
Done it till
business.
recently.
When did you start the jewelry business?
You know, my mother had 5 daughters, and as I said, she had to save every penny to give jewelry to the daughters at the wedding time.
Okay.
And gold at that time was really cheap. When I started my business, gold was around 1,000 rupees for 11 grams.
Okay.
A tola. At that time, it was
Tola,
a tola,
right.
not 10 grams.
Right.
Then gradually, so my mother would take me around when she went to buy jewelry. And how it started, my mother would make jewelry for all her friends, no commission, no income. This was just from her heart. She wanted to help people. So she would take me around to buy gold, to buy the necessary diamonds or emeralds or whatever.
This was Zaveri Bazaar.
Yeah.
This was Zaveri Bazaar, right?
Zaveri
Bazaar,
Bazaar.
yeah.
So I used to go with my mother, and my mother had to tell me to hold the purse tight, so it was not snatched from my young, small hands, you know.
Right.
That's how I learned the ropes from my mother.
Okay.
And I've never gone to learn any jewelry business. It was just handed over to me from my mom. And then the family started asking me, can you make... After my mother, the family depended on me, and it just happened. It just happened.
Okay. In your opinion, since you've dealt with gold and it's been a part of the business that you've run as well, what is your opinion of gold as an investment?
See, today, the rates going so high, I sometimes feel that I should have even kept gold for myself.
Right.
I should have invested in gold when it was so cheap. One day I had some money left over, so I went and bought some slabs of gold. And after it started going down, made me very nervous. After a few months, it started coming back to the rate I had bought it. So I went and sold it again because
Right.
I was recovering my money.
Right.
So now when I think about it, my husband also said, why are you doing this? Why are you running to sell it again?
Right.
I mean, I said, no, I'm recovering my money.
Right.
And it was, now I feel if I had kept that amount, I would have really saved a lot of, I would have made a lot of money today.
Yeah.
And I was so busy making jewelry for other people, I forgot to make things for myself. It
That's
was
a
a
good one.
really sad story for me.
But okay, but that's true for a lot of people. And the reason I asked you this is because I want to set up the conversation for the rest of both of you as well. Nisreen, of course, we speak about this every day, right?
Absolutely.
You know, I'm curious first about what Eamon thinks about gold and about
gold
and about
jewelry in general.
Yeah. As in, no, gold is an investment, and then jewelry, of course. I'm sure your mom has told you jewelry is not an investment.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. Diamonds are always depreciating, right?
Yeah.
But they're shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think gold is definitely a great investment. I think we've had a recent conversation about this too, right, Mom? About that it's the best thing to invest in right now, and
Of course, you know exactly where to invest, but talk to me about some of the early experiences that you have of your father and the way that.
So, you know,
they
my
taught you.
dad actually used to buy equity, direct stocks.
Yeah, see, this
So
is
he
what I was trying to
very
get
interested,
at. Yeah.
and he was an engineer. So typically, he bought a lot of engineering stocks. So he would
Okay.
have L&T, and there was a mining company. I remember because in those days, you know, you didn't get the stock prices on television.
Yeah.
So in the newspapers, he would sit down with the entire newspaper every day, and he had a diary.
Right.
And every day or once a week, you know, whenever he had the time, I think maybe on a weekend, when I and he were both available, in the diary, he would take out the list and manually write down the prices to see the shift and to see if it had appreciated or depreciated. And we did that for many years. So I was very familiar with all the names that he invested in actually. And so he built up a pretty good stock portfolio because
Okay.
they were frugal, as I said.
I want to talk to you, okay, about, and I've spent more time talking to your grandmother and your mom than you, but I want to get a sense from you and your worldview about money, investments, spending it, because right at the start of the conversation, you were speaking about how you think that the older generation maybe does not spend the money that they've earned well enough. People don't know how to spend. What is your opinion there?
so I don't think it's much of a how to spend. I feel like they're very safeguarded about their money, and they don't know where to spend it. And I think that it is also a difficult thing to put in their head to say time is money. So I feel like they would take a lot of longer cuts than needed, whereas certain situations can be quickly resolved with just spending a little bit of extra money, and the stress is off your head. So definitely those, and then of course when we're talking about the luxuries of life, if it's a holiday or if it's a bag, you know, for say, if you've worked hard, then you should be able to enjoy it by spending on yourself just sometimes a little bit.
What is
Go
your
for that-
opinion on debt?
On debt, I mean, you should spend the money if you have it. Don't be spending your money if you don't have it.
Auntie, what's your opinion on debt?
Yeah, I agree with her. You have to have money in your purse to pay immediately for all
Yeah.
the luxuries you want.
Yeah.
But what about people going out and spending,
Swiping their card.
swiping their card and spending?
I absolutely disagree with them. I only when I have money in my purse and I go shopping and I know this is it. I can spend this money today. I never swipe my card. Never.
Nani, what do you think about a spontaneous shopping spree?
Spontaneous.
What do you think about it?
Just, you thought of it today, you want to buy a new pair of jeans, you just go and buy it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, when I go shopping and I see something nice,
Yeah?
I'm not a spontaneous buyer.
No.
Yeah.
No,
She's not.
I'm not. Unless I feel it is, I desire something and I know if it is good investment, I buy it.
Okay.
I'm not a spontaneous buyer.
Okay, so you've got a lot of work cut out for you to convince your mom and your
So
grandmother
my
to
children
buy.
always tell me
Yes.
that I should have spent more.
Yeah.
I had money, but why didn't I spend? Especially Nisreen, she
Yeah.
always points out to me,
Yeah.
Mom, you had the money, but you are not using it.
And did you think about that? Have you thought about that?
You know, but I don't regret. I have
don't?
no regrets. No regrets that I didn't spend the money which was available to me. I have no regrets because what I had, I was, you know,
You were happy, you were
as I
content.
went on saying that when we were growing up, we had hard times growing up. That imbibed in my memory. Unless I need, I don't have to buy that thing because at that time things were not easy and some things remain in your memory. It doesn't go away.
That's such beautiful insight because, okay, so here, I do want to get from you as well. And I know so much about your story, Nisreen, which is why I'm focusing more on your daughter and your mother. But do you think that the opportunities that you currently have and your generation, by and large, I don't know how much time you spend thinking about this, but for women your age, do you think that enough opportunity exists?
In what sense?
In the sense of setting up a business or in the workplace or to grow career-wise? Do you feel that there is enough out there for you?
I think there is definitely enough out there because the generation now is very outspoken and things are very easily available. So even when it comes in terms of spending, we do spend it because we feel like we've earned the money that we've earned and it's worth it to spend it. Whereas in the previous generation, I feel like they wanted to save the money so that they could give it to their kids and like kind of keep that going on.
I want to end this conversation, ladies, with you, Nasreen, because you've heard, I'm sure you heard some parts of this over the course of the last many years, but advice that you would give to women in all age groups, right? So you have learnings from your daughter as well. And we were speaking about this just before we started this conversation, the fact that you want to go out and spend a little more than you did before. But general advice to manage their money better and to be independent as you are and as your mother was, as your daughter is.
Sure. So, for the younger investors like Ayman's age, I definitely like to put a word of caution because most of the younger investors that I meet are not really, referring to tomorrow at all. And they are all, similar to what she said, is that they are spending what they are earning.
Yes.
Without a view that, tomorrow you might have a job loss or, your retirement will be 30 years later, but that will come. So a little bit of caution for them to not, to understand what they are spending on, because some of these things are extremely frivolous and some of these things they don't even look at once they're home.
So it's too far on the other side of the spectrum.
Yes. So for those, for that generation, I think that they should be looking at a little bit of savings, investable surplus should be there so that that habit is created. And then from there, they will manage. For the older women, like, I think for mom's generation, etc., they did not really get a holistic view. What I understood from my parents is my dad was always worried about running out of money.
Right.
That was always a fear which he talked about to me very often. And I would always show him his statements and say, Dad, you're not going to do. Yeah. But that fear was there. So for that generation, maybe, maybe in the 70s or 80s also, to get a holistic view and to have a maybe professional manager to make the cash flows to tell you that you're not going to run out of the money so that you can spend some of it on yourself rather than worrying about leaving it to your children and grandchildren.
And for women your age? Or
women in my age who are
maybe in the
like earning women, obviously to also not depend on maybe your brother, spouse and father, and to take the control in your own hands and decide what you want to do. Savings.
Why is that important?
A lot of women are not still, completely independent. So if you earn the money, I'm not talking about inherited money because there's a difference.
Yes.
So if you've earned the money, that you jolly well have the right to know whether you want to spend it or save it. And you might want to go on a solo trip also, just spend it on yourself. And I think that's very important and it's very empowering to the earning woman herself.
Yes.
So to have a distinction between money which is inherited and which you might want to leave to your, heirs, because that's something that you want to leave, to the future generations. But your earned money, you have a right to spend it, invest it, as well as, save it.
Last thought that I want you to leave us with is that invariably, as was the case in Fatima's early life, a lot of the investments decisions were taken by her husband, by her father. That exists today as well. And a lot of women decide to hand over that role and responsibility to their partners. Do you think that's healthy? Or do you think that women should take charge of their own finances to the extent of the surplus that they're generating? Should they invest it for themselves?
So not only should they invest their own money, but they should also be involved in the husband's and the family's joint finances.
But why?
The reason being that, sometimes you might find yourself to be a single parent. Either you're divorced or you're widowed, and then you have no idea of what's going to happen to the money because you've never got into it. So also forget about something bad happening. I mean, if you are a family and you're sharing, all the responsibilities, then even the money decisions should be joint. So the woman needs to be involved, whether it is she's not an earning member or an earning member, either ways.
Sure.
And if she's an earning member, then even more so, because you've earned it, then you should be.
You have the right to your money.
You have the right to be responsible for whether you save it or spend it, but it should be your decision.
Fantastic.
And even if you're part of the unit and you're a homemaker, you still have, I mean, you know, you're contributing to your family's, well-being by being a homemaker.
I have always been of the opinion, and maybe you can weigh in on this, all of you, that if you are a homemaker, you should draw a salary of sorts, and so you should have an account of your own where your husband or your partner pays you a certain amount of money every month, so you can do whatever you want with it.
Course.
And so I've heard this, I've spoken about this, and I've been told, oh, you know what, she has access to my debit card and my bank account, and she can draw whatever she wants from it. But my point is that there's always this feeling that you need to seek permission.
And she'll always be questioned on it.
No, we never do it. So even with my husband, if he tells me, you know, this is the money that you have, but unless he actually gives me and tells me, you know, there's no questions asked, this is your money, I will not spend it.
Right.
So that's an innate...
There's guilt.
Yeah.
Right?
There's no guilt, but there's a question
Otherwise,
of
there's guilt.
being answerable.
Yes.
You know, maybe he won't actually question you, but you never want to answer that. So whether I want to spend it for a gift, say for my mother, for my daughter, for myself, I don't want to be answerable.
Sure.
So, you know, besides being a financial advisor, I'm also a mother and I'm also a homemaker myself.
Yes.
So I can understand when women tell us these things that, you know, I think this is lovely what you mentioned, that the homemaker should have a salary for staying at home.
Yes.
You know.
And for the work that she does.
And for the work that she does, because there has to be a contribution, you know, which is paid. So I agree completely wholeheartedly with that. And the debit card is, I think most women with self-respect don't really want to use it.
Yes.
Because they don't want to respond as to where they spend.
Thank you so much, ladies, for a lovely conversation. It's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure. Wish you a very, very happy Women's Day.
Thank you for having us.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Moneywise. It's been an absolute pleasure bringing it to you. Do stay tuned. Lots more coming up on NDTV Profit.